I'm 22F, my mom is 37, and I have three younger siblings F14, F7, and M4. Me and the second oldest have different dads from each other and the other two. They and this upcoming baby all have the same dad, our stepdad. I'm sorry if that was confusing. There are three dads in total, but only our stepdad is involved now. I was the babysitter and mom growing up. When my sister was born, I magically became mom despite not even being double digits. When the others came, I still was mom. I didn't get to have fun, go out, or be a kid. My job in the house was to cook, clean, raise my siblings, and deal with our mom. She was incredibly immature growing up and loved to drink, party, spend money on luxuries, and not be a mom. She acts more like a mom now, but a lot of the work still falls on me. She robbed me of my childhood, and I'm very bitter about it. The only reason I lived at home for so long was because no one could take me in, and I felt that I could tolerate it all for free rent and food. It was a good deal for me then, but I'm 22 now. I'm done being a mom when I don't even have kids. Last year, my stepdad's parents died in a car accident, and as their only child, he got everything. We all moved into their home and got a bit of money under our belts, so I guess they decided to have a baby. When my mom announced it, I asked if she was serious. She confirmed and asked me if I still had my diaper changing skills as a joke. I was silently livid. I dryly laughed and found some roommates online that night. The thought of wasting another 10 plus years raising my siblings sounded like hell. She found out that I'm planning on leaving come August, and now she's irate, calling me every name under the sun and selfish. She got my siblings involved, and the youngest is crying, asking why I don't love them anymore and why I'm leaving. It's really low to use kids like that, and it hurts. I don't want to stay, but I don't want them to cry. I know I'm doing the right thing for myself, but is it the right thing for them? My mom never really parented growing up. She wouldn't, so I took over that role. I was the one who changed diapers and taught them their ABCs and all that. I was the one who cooked dinner and bathed them. I look at none of my siblings as siblings, but as my own kids because that's what they basically are. I don't think she'll be able to do a good job. She and my stepdad rely on me heavily in that category. I need advice on how to get over this feeling and move on.
Comment 1. You tell the kids I love you in my heart, no matter what, always. And you leave because you deserve a life that is not being a domestic servant to your mother's failed birth control philosophy. You being parentified at such a young age is a form of abuse. Sit down with your 14F sister and explain what happened to you, and that she can't let it happen to her. Your mom will come after her next. It would be a very good idea to get a therapist to help you reframe exactly how badly you have been treated and why you need to leave. You can't help the other kids, really, until you help yourself first. OP comment. I thought about my sister a lot as well, which is what makes this so hard. I took the brunt of everything so she wouldn't have to. I wanted her to be a kid. 14 is way too early to be a parent, and I know that that's what will happen to her. I know that she'll just do what she's told, and she's responsible enough to realize when things aren't working, and she'll try to fix them herself and fall into that trap. I don't know how to have that conversation with her without my household exploding, but I know that it needs to be done. My two little siblings have just been crying and crying, thinking that I'm never coming back. Even though I tell them that I'll come visit, my mom keeps telling them that I'm never coming back and abandoning the family. Comment 2. NTA, you are not responsible for your mother's life choices. Go and live your life. Explain to your siblings that you love them, and always will. But that it's normal for adults to move out of their mother's house to begin a life of their own. Explain that they can visit you, and you will visit them. Tell mom it's time for her to grow up and become a parent to her other children. I am a 25F, and my husband, 27, and I have been together for almost 4 years, and we do not have any kids. I had a same-day lumpectomy surgery yesterday. The tumor is not believed to be malignant, but I wanted it out since my mother had breast cancer. My husband got the day off work and drove me. The surgery was delayed for about 3 hours, and my husband was getting impatient. The surgeon finally came in and said she expected the surgery would take an hour. After she left, my husband said he was going to leave the hospital to get lunch when I went under since he hadn't eaten that day. I wanted him to be able to eat and was trying to be brave, but I really didn't want to be left when the surgery was only supposed to be an hour, so I asked him if we could pick up food for him on the way home. He gave me the impression he would stay, and I was wheeled away. Fast forward to 30 minutes later, I was being shaken awake by a nurse who told me I was sick and she was trying to get in touch with my husband. Apparently, during the surgery, my blood pressure dropped rapidly, and my surgeon was able to get the tumor out in 20 minutes. My BP was 70/30 by the time they got it out, and my lips had turned blue. I was very sick in my room. I was bleeding through my internal stitches, coming in and out of consciousness, and was vomiting. All the while, my nurse was trying to track my husband down. My surgeon called him, but he did not answer. I'm very thankful for the sweet nurses who took care of me and reassured me. It is the next day now, and I'm very emotional and angry about the whole ordeal. My husband did not apologize and has been incredibly defensive about the whole thing. His explanation for leaving was, I went out and got lunch, and then I was getting gas because I was low from driving your ass around. The surgery was supposed to be an hour. How was I supposed to know your heart could have stopped? I told him he had one job, which was to stay with me and tell me what the surgeon says. I could get over him leaving if he was apologetic or remorseful, but I'm shocked at his words / how little he seems to care for someone he claims to love. In his defense, he cared for me last night when we got home but left today after we argued. I'm sure I'm just still really emotional from anesthesia and being a bit dramatic, but I can't even look at him the same. He is usually attentive and caring, so I am baffled. I'm sure he thought the chances of anything going wrong were slim, but I can't understand his thought process. I sat for hours and hours in waiting rooms during all of my mother's breast cancer procedures and was nervous to even leave for a minute to get food. God forbid I don't have cancer because I don't trust him with anything medical now. Anyway, I'm unsure what I hope to get from writing this to strangers. I just needed to vent. Comment 1. I had a tumor removed in March. My friend drove from 2 towns away, picked me up, waited with me from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. when my surgery was delayed, stayed the entire time, was with me in recovery, argued with the nursing staff that was trying to send me home with zero pain meds because there wasn't a prescription for any, and drove 45 minutes at 10 p.m. to the only 24 hours pharmacy in my state and got me home at midnight. My friend did this. Your husband is awful and this is grounds for divorce. In sickness and health. He cannot be trusted in an emergency. Don't waste your life on someone who values you so little. I'm so sorry you have to go through this, and I hope your results will be benign. Comment 2. Some people react defensively when they know they're in the wrong. If he doesn't come around and apologize in the next day or so, it might be time to think about moving on. The one job he has is to make you feel safe and cared for. He abandoned you when you needed him most and doesn't even seem to feel bad about it. NTA, but be glad you didn't have kids with him. Comment 3. NTA. I'm guessing your surgery was done at a hospital? Although I'm sure it's possible, I've never been at a hospital that didn't have a cafeteria or at least some vending machines. Getting gas takes 5 minutes. He could easily have done that with you in the car on the way home. And what the heck is his excuse for not having his phone handy while you were in surgery? My husband, Gary, M41, and I, F38, are expecting our first child in a little more than 3 months. As you can imagine, things have been quite hectic as we prepare. Overall, Gary is an excellent spouse. However, he has an issue regarding his relationship with his parents. Gary's family lived in extreme poverty for most of his life. It was so bad that his parents would regularly skip meals so that he and his brothers had enough to eat, and they came close to homelessness several times. Fortunately, Gary and his brothers were all able to secure good stable jobs and have worked hard to pull their parents out of poverty. The biggest issue I have with Gary is that he spends excessively on his parents. Around the time we met, he had just taken out a mortgage on a nice house for them. This strained our relationship at the time because I didn't want him to make any major financial commitments to other people before we were married. This was perhaps the biggest example, until now. In the past few weeks, I've noticed Gary talking a lot with his brothers about buying something else for their parents. I was curious, so I asked him, and he mentioned something about how he and his brothers wanted to buy a car for their parents since their old one was starting to have issues. I asked him not to spend too much because we're expecting a baby and don't know what expenses will arise in the coming months. He reassured me that he wouldn't. For the past 2 weeks or so, Gary has been working later than usual. I even overheard him telling a friend in our neighborhood that he needed to work longer hours because he was about to make a major purchase. I'll admit this next part may seem wrong, but I was frustrated with his late hours, so I logged onto his home laptop. I saw that on Tuesday, he made a $45,000 wire transfer. Of course, I was fuming seeing he spent that much, and my curiosity got the better of me, so I checked out his WhatsApp, also on his computer, and read some of the messages he was sending his brothers. Turns out they are preparing to drop around $105,000 on a car called a G90 for their parents. Gary sent the $45,000 to his brother who lives in the same city as their parents. I saw a few pictures of the specific car, and read some of the messages he was sending the dealership rep about being fully on board, and all this made me feel sick to my stomach. When Gary came home, I did confront him about this. I said that he was being irresponsible for spending that kind of money without consulting me and that I wanted him and his brothers to cancel the whole thing for the time being. Gary became very defensive and started saying that we had more than enough money in case of an emergency and that he'd work overtime for the next few weeks so that he could make it back. We argued. I called him a liar. He said I broke his trust by going through his computer. I got so angry, angrier than I've ever been, and I told him that since he spent this kind of money without telling me, he lost the privilege to name our daughter. He got frustrated by this and just said I was being too much. We ended up not eating together, and we even slept separately last night. We have also not spoken since, as he ended up leaving extra early for work today. I personally think he's being too stubborn, but my best friend thinks I'm too harsh and that I should apologize. Context, for those wondering, last year according to his taxes he made about $763K. Give or take this year, he should be making around the same amount. My issues are that he went behind my back and $45K is still a massive amount of money. Comment 1. YTA, he makes $750,000 a year and can make this back in a few weeks. His family sacrificed for him. Frankly, I would be considering divorce if I was him. Comment 2. So this man was helping his parents when you first started dating, and this caused you to give him problems when you were someone new to his life, and he makes between $700–800K a year, and you are flipping out over $45,000 for his parents. You sound very controlling of his finances, and now you are trying to manipulate him using his child. I hope he wakes up and sees how horrid you are. YTA. Comment 3. His parents skipped meals to ensure their kids ate. They sacrificed and raised happy, loving children who have good jobs. Between the three, it sounds like 3 boys. They are contributing to give their parents a good life. The money he's giving doesn't even put a dent into his income to support you and your home. You were complaining about him helping to buy a home for them when you first got together and before you were married. I'm understanding you wanting to know about where the money is used. However, I can understand why he doesn't talk to you. My 41F daughter, 15, had a sleepover a couple of days ago with 4 of her friends. From what I observed, the girls had a lot of fun together and were all very respectful of each other. My husband and I, most of the girls' parents thanked me and my husband for hosting and said positive things, but one texted me a list of all the things I did wrong. The first thing that upset this mom was the fact that my daughter and her friends went swimming in our backyard pool. When the sleepover invites were sent out via text message, I asked the moms if they were okay with their girls going swimming. All of them said yes or that's okay with me except for the complaining mom, who simply liked my text. I assumed this meant yes. I would not have allowed this had the girls not been forced to pass a swimming safety unit, which included a swim test at the end, for their PE class. Additionally, my husband completed a lifeguarding course from the Red Cross and passed with flying colors. The mom's second issue was the food the girls ate, which she deemed unhealthy. I, however, did not see an issue with this because I think eating junk at sleepovers is okay. The next issue was the movie the girls watched after dinner. Since some of the girls are 14 and others are 15, we told them no R-rated movies, but other than that it was up to them. They ended up choosing The Fault in Our Stars, which the complainer deemed inappropriate. The final thing she was mad about was the fact that the girls didn't actually go to sleep until midnight. As a mom myself, I understand because I want my daughter to get enough sleep. However, both my husband and I do think that sleepovers are a time when it's okay to stay up late, provided the kids let the parents sleep, which my daughter and her friends did. Additionally, the girls woke up at 8:30, meaning they got about 8.5 hours of sleep. I received the complaining mom's text on the day after the sleepover. The text said, "Thank you for having my daughter over. It was generous of you to open up your home and graciously host her. However, I feel that many of your decisions were questionable and inappropriate." She then proceeded to list her objections with specific reasons for each one. I then replied, "Please tell your daughter thanks for coming. She was a pleasure to host. I understand your concerns, but considering that you never communicated your expectations or rules, I don't think it's fair to place the blame on me. If we ever do things like this in the future, please make sure to let me know of any restrictions ahead of time. Thank you and have a lovely weekend." She then responded angrily that it was my fault, and when I texted her to say sorry, she didn't respond. Comment 1, NTA I feel sorry for this girl, her mother might ruin her friendships. Who expects to sleep early and eat a healthy meal for a sleepover? It's like serving salad at birthdays and asking the kids to do their homework. Your answer was very well written. The mother should have shared her concerns with you before the sleepover. Comment 2. NTA. This lady doesn't seem to have any idea how sleepovers actually work, which I mean. Fair, I guess. But you did lay out your plan and she didn't ask for more info or what her expectations would with concern to her daughter. She couldn't have expected you to have the same exact rules for your daughter as she does for hers, especially at a sleepover. I feel sorry for your daughter's friend.